Huawei is something that's very dangerous.
Huawei is very, very strong. They had a record year.
There is no Huawei or ZTE equipment in our network today, and there never will be.
In 2019, Huawei was on top of the world. It was the second largest smartphone manufacturer on the planet, sitting just behind Samsung. Its technology powered networks across tons of countries and was leading the global race to build 5G. People loved Huawei's product. Online forums were filled with users praising the company's phones, with many calling them some of the best devices they had ever owned. Huawei P13 Pro was the best phone I had. I'm still rocking my P30 for over 5 years now. Battery still good, only charge once a day. And then, almost overnight, everything changed. What followed was a battle of governments, billions of dollars, and a tech cold war that is still unfolding today. So how does a company go from dominating an entire industry to becoming America's biggest target? The story of Huawei begins in 1978. A man by the name of Ren Jinfei, a former engineer in the People's Liberation Army, founded Huawei with just 21,000 yuan, roughly about $5,000. This amount of money is gonna grow up to a multi-billion-dollar company. Huawei started by making telecommunication equipment, the technology that powers phone networks across the world. By 2002 and 2003, the company began entering the mobile phone market. One of its early devices was the Huawei C300, released in 2004. With just a simple design, it marks the beginning of Huawei's journey into making phones. They had a clear strategy: offer high-level features at a price that often undercut competition, powerful cameras, long-lasting batteries, and more. One phone in particular stood out and quickly became a fan favorite. It was the Huawei P30 Pro. Released in 2019, it becomes one of Huawei's biggest success. The P30 Pro series reached around 10 million sales in just 85 days, an insane amount of revenue. By 2019, Huawei was no longer a small company. It was the second largest smartphone manufacturer in the world, competing directly with Samsung and also Apple. But as Huawei seemed unstoppable, a storm was already forming. American officials argued that Huawei represents an unacceptable national security risk. Their biggest concern wasn't Huawei's smartphones, it was the growing demand in 5G, the next generation of internet infrastructure. They feared that Chinese authorities could potentially gain access to sensitive information throughout Huawei's equipment. Huawei repeatedly denied all the accusations, said it clear that it operates independently from the Chinese government. Then, in December 2018, the conflict escalated dramatically. Meng Wanzhou, Huawei's chief finance officer and the daughter of the founder himself, was arrested in Canada at the request of US authorities. The United States accused her of bank fraud and other things. The arrest immediately sparks a diplomatic crisis between China, Canada, and the United States. But the biggest blow was yet to come. In 2019, the US government placed Huawei on its entity list, a trade blacklist that restricted American companies from doing business with Huawei without special permission. The consequences were immediate. Huawei lost access to Google services, including Play Store, Gmail, Google Maps. Many experts believe this was the beginning of the end of Huawei, a company that once ruled the world was yet to crumble. Take a look at this graph. It shows Huawei's revenue 2019 until today. Despite years of restriction, the revenue is just going up. So how does a company that is supposed to be dead still growing? First, they built their own Harmony OS, their own alternative to Android, followed by an entire ecosystem. Then came the surprise that nobody expected. In 2023, Huawei unveiled the Mate 16 Pro, powered by a 100% made Chinese processor. But all of this wasn't just enough. Huawei now is aiming for a bigger target. It's AI. Over the past decade, the company has invested more than 1,200 trillion yuan into research and development. In 2024 alone, they spent around 179 billion yuan, about 24 billion US dollars, which was 20% of Huawei's annual revenue. Looking at these numbers, it's quite scary. And with Nvidia finding a hard time operating in China, Huawei is quickly filling the gap, accounting for 20% of the Chinese market. And these numbers are, of course, expected to go up. The story of Huawei is kind of insane, whether you see it as a national security risk, or as a tech giant, or something in between. Maybe the real question was never whether these companies spy or not. Maybe the real question is who's allowed to spy.